Okay, let's pick up where we left off on Creo Parametric learning lessons. This is going to be lesson number 2. I'm really just starting with the last model we had because I want to show you a couple more things. First off, right now you can see I've lost my model. It's way out there. If I want to be able to look at it again, I've zoomed out, I've spun the model, I've just lost it. So I can hit this button right here, refit, and it'll resize it to the window. It'll be in the same orientation, but it'll resize it to the window. So I can zoom all the way out, refit, back to where I was. These pluses and minuses will zoom you in and out. This will repaint the window. So like if you do a, like say if I select that surface, I hit repaint, well, I can't remember. Repaint will be covered later. And then there's also the shading or wireframe versions of the part. I prefer shading or shading with edges and wireframe. So wireframe can be a little tricky to get used to, but it can really show you what the part looks like through it. So it's one of those ones you may want to look into learning, but shading with edges is the default view. A little later in the series, I'll show you map keys that will allow you to switch between these views, as well as the named views, back, front, bottom. They're just map keys or shortcuts that will allow you to select those views without having to actually go into this toolbar. Okay. So now let's start a new part. We could have saved that one, probably should have saved it. So there's another thing about Creo is if you close a part, it's not gone yet. So if you hit open and go to in session, that part is still there. I can still open it up. It's right where I was. So I can just hit save. It'll save it into my folder. And we're good to go. Now, let's say you made a mistake. You open that file up, and I put an extrude in here. And obviously, this would not be that big of a deal, but I did something big where I don't like what I did, but I haven't saved. What I can do is close this, do erase not displayed, hit OK, and then open it back up, and that won't be there anymore. So that's a little trick for you. Generally speaking, if you're switching between assemblies, it's a good idea to do erase not displayed to make sure you don't have any similar parts that may get intermingled and cause problems if they have the same name. So now we're going to select working directory, go back one, create lesson 2. And it's 2Q for some reason, but that's okay. Now we're going to new part, underscore instead of space, 2. And now we're going to work on Revolve. So Revolve is, well, exactly what it says. It's a revolution. So you can again do this solid or surface. We'll cover surfaces later. You can do 360 degrees, 90 degrees. You can do any measure of degrees you want. You can do it variable. You can do it symmetric. So you can only do, like 90 degrees about this plane. Or you can do up and tell, just like on the extrude. So now, of course, we got to define a sketch once again. Define a sketch. There we go. I've sketched on this plane. So the first thing we have to do, the most important thing for our Revolve, is a center line. And you have to use this center line, the geometry center line, the datum center line. You do not want to use the construction center line because it doesn't like it. But if you the first time you draw a center line, though, it will automatically designate that as the axis of rotation. All right, click on it. Well, and actually, if you draw another center line, I can right click on it and designate axis of rotation, of revolution. So I don't want to do that. But if I do use any other axes in this sketch, I should always use the construction center lines just to make sure there's no confusion when you go to revolve it. Okay, so now we're just going to draw something in here. We're going to use a line and then an arc and then another line. Make it tangent. And there. And so right now you'd think we're done, right? Well, we're not, because it's not a closed section. For a solid, it has to be a closed section. The other thing is, I can't go past the center line. If I go past the center line, then there's no clear axis or point of revolution. You have to sketch on one side of the center line. So I'm going to go ahead and go just to here. I'm going to go up to here, and well, for fun, I'm going to make it a vessel. So I'm going to go to here. I'm going to make it parallel. I'm going to go back here and back to there. And when it turns pink, I've got a closed section. With my config file, it turns white. But in this one, it turns pink. So that means it's a closed section. It means it's good for revolutions, good for extrusions. And we're good to go. So now we hit the green check mark. And automatically, it defaults to 360 degrees. I can change that to 180. And you can see it only revolves that way. And I can make a revolve, all sorts of revolves. Anything you can sketch, you can make it into a revolve. And any point of angles and everything like that. And again, you have the two options. You have variable and variable, so I could make it 50 degrees on one side and 70 degrees on the other. Or I could do symmetric. So there's that. That's pretty much it to it. You can see internal center line has been selected. That's because I used a construction or a geometry center line in my sketch that was automatically designated as the axis of revolution. You can also right click and designate the axis of revolution as I showed. But if you don't, you can use, and here's the axis displays here. You can use an external coordinates or external datum. So if you click in your Revolve, you're here, you're clicked on here, you click model, then you click axis. You can create a new axis. So I'm going to create it on this plane and this plane. No, not there. Create it on this plane and normal. And I'm just going to throw it on there randomly. I don't really care where it's at. And then if I confirm it and I go back into my sketch, now I see that axis there. So I can click from internal coordinate system, internal line. I can pick that axis isn't on that plane. But I can we'll just try a rectangle, makes it easier. I can set that axis as the revolution point rather than using a line inside the coordinates, inside the sketch. I prefer to use lines inside the sketches whenever possible because it makes everything easier. I can tell where I'm referencing everything off of. But if you need to, you can always use an axis of a whole or of a created axis or whatever for your revolution. But that's just an option. So we also have the options to create new bodies. So they could be, a multi-body part. I don't really mess with that too much. I don't think it's necessary with the assembly options that are given to you in Pro E. and you can name it if you want to. I can come in here and name it pipe, and the feature will be named inside the model tree pipe. Now, let's do a sweep. Sweeps are pretty cool. There's 3 different types of sweeps. There's your standard sweep, which is just and you can do solids or surfaces. I typically do surfaces more than I do solids, but you can do both. Now you can select your curve. You hold shift, so you left click once, then shift click to select the next line of the curve. So you can shift click around. This one only has 2 options, so it's pretty short reference. But and then there's options for normal to trajectory, normal to surface. You'll see these arrows point. So right now it's normal to this outside face. So if I hit next, there it's normal to this face here, because it's pointing directly up. So that's really what we want. We don't really want it to be normal to a angled or cylindrical face. We want it to be normal to a flat face whenever possible. And you can, if you don't give the IQ options you're given, you can do a constant normal direction and actually select that plane as the normal direction. But that causes other problems. So hopefully you can just do normal trajectory. So now you want to go to, let's do a remove material. So that's an option, and just like the extrude, Revolve has the same option. You can do a revolved remove material. Same option. Same with the sketch. Do a select here, or go to our sketch here, and let's just sketch kind of a weird shape. Again, it needs to be a closed section, needs to show up in pink. Doesn't really matter what it is. Let's make this 6, 30, 135, and 15. So now we hit confirm, or we use our center mouse button, and we have the preview of what it will look like. And that's going to remove material from our Revolve. And a Revolve would have done this in this case, but you can also sweep around arcs and rectangles. Like for instance, if I were to do extrude, let's make this to 20, define, sketch plane, rectangle, rectangle, flip. Now I'm going to do something we're not going to cover yet, but do a round. Make it a nice aggressive round. Because one of the things you have to watch out for is in this, when you do a sweep, and I do it around these arcs like this, it won't work if it gets too sharp. So let's say I draw this. So, and then I put it at 20 millimeters and a 120 degree angle. No, 110 degree angle. So I think this may be too sharp, and see it's failing. It's not showing a preview. But if I go back in here to my sketch, right up here, sketch, and I change that to 10, it works. Alright, wait a minute, let me make sure that didn't work. It shouldn't work, but I didn't have it set to remove material. Yeah, see, it fails. It won't show a preview because that's too tight in this corner and it's overlapping itself. So when it overlaps itself, it fails. So you have to make sure that when you're sweeping around a corner like that, that you plan for that and are aware that that may be what's causing your failure. So, the other sweeps are helical sweeps. Helical sweeps are pretty neat. You can basically design threads with those. You do a sketch, draw a line. That becomes your how far it's going to, go around there. And then you design a helical axis. And then you're allowed to, so it's helical profile, edit, do your line, just a vertical line or a horizontal line, your axis of revolution, and then you sketch your section. So this is what your actual thread would look like. So in here, I'd come in here and draw the tooth or whatever it is you want to sweep, and there we go. It sweeps it in there. And the start and end point is determined by that line and how long it is. So you can tweak that length of that line to tweak how far up your threads go or how far up your helical sweep goes. I mainly use this for threads. That's why I keep saying threads. You can do it to remove material as well. This one isn't in the right spot to remove material. But you remove material as well. And you can also change the hand. You can do a left hand or a right hand rotation. There's also, you can adjust the pitch here. So let's do 14 threads per inch, or I guess this is probably in metric. But, pitch isn't 14 threads per inch. It'd be 1 divided by 14. And that's going to be too small for this because this is in metric. And I just made a mistake. You can try to hit this, but no, there it goes. In my experience, this little red X that shows up down here only works in certain features. Maybe that's been addressed in 8.0, but in the past, if you're stuck on a feature, it's best to just kind of wait it out because pushing that red X can fail the software and put it into non-responsive mode. So it's best to kind of wait it out if you can. If it hasn't responded in like an hour, you're probably done. That's why I always recommend saving often whenever you have a large assembly you're working on. Again, you can do constant or variable trajectory. You can create a new body with this as well. Like I said, I don't really recommend it when you can use assemblies. And you can change the direction of the trajectory or the section orientation for the sketch. That's a helical sweep. Volume helical sweep I don't have a lot of experience with. And actually I don't recognize it, so I don't know if it's new or if I've just never played with it. So I'm going to go ahead and ignore that one for now. I'm going to guess it's not used very often if I haven't used it in 10 years. So that was really all I wanted to cover in this one. Swept blends are another one that's a little bit of a niche case. You can well, let's see here. Well, do a surface swept blend because I only have 2. Let's see, is that gonna work? No. It's been a while since I've done a swept blend. We'll save that one for another video when I've had a little time to familiarize myself with it and remind myself how it works. I have used it before, but it's been a while. Shapes, there's also blends and rotational blends. Again, not used all that often, probably more advanced. Blends, actually, that's what I was trying to do, is do a blend. And it'll create a surface between those two, which that is not really what I intended to do. But, yeah. So, next time we'll get into holes, rounds, and chamfers. There's other things on here that we probably won't cover. But that'll be a good start. Yeah. So thank you. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll be happy to answer them. Until next time, save always, save often. That's another little thing is down here is a message bar that'll tell you what just happened. Like that just told me that was saved. So there's other things that pop up there. That can be a useful tip if something is failing. Sometimes it'll tell you down there why it's failing. So look out for that. Alright, thank you. Have a good day.